Once you've ruled out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Benton. It is vampires. There's a host of damned souls at Telepath.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. You can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Hi everybody, this is Irene Allen Block, the host of the Paranormal UK Radio Show, the flagship show of the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm here tonight with my co-host, Mark Johnson.
Wow, I'm really impressed. Not a single stumble. You know, this is what happens when we take a month off. You know, it allows you to...
Practicing, haven't I?
Yes, you have.
Yes, I've been forever in my kitchen making tea saying... Hi, I'm the host of Irene. You know, I'm Irene Allen Block, the host of... Am I Irene Allen Block or Irene Allen? I don't know anymore.
Well, you tell me.
Oh, I don't know. I change it all the time, don't I? Irene Allen Block, because my book is coming out soon. Operation Paris, The Psychic Spy.
Yep. Yeah, when is that?
Irene Allen, when I want to be a grandmother.
When is that coming out so I know when to...
Very, very soon, Mark. I am titillating the very last bit of it.
Because, you know, then I have to work my magic on it.
You're going to have to read through it again, you know, because I put so much in it. And I totally forgot to mark down where I'd put stuff.
Okay. Well, we're looking...
Well, you're going to just going to have to read it again.
Yep. Your avid readers are waiting for it. Scott McCune... He's been waiting. He's been waiting for it for a couple of years.
Agent McCune to you. He's in the book. He is.
Yes, it's true. He is.
Yeah. So, I could not put Scott McCune in the book. You know.
Well, he is your biggest fan.
Really, really fascinating, lovely person. So he's in the book.
Oh, good. So good. So how are you feeling?
Well, I've had COVID for a second time, so I'm feeling a lot better than I was, but it's left me with a few aches and pains, but I don't know really whether that's due to COVID or old age.
Maybe a combination of both.
It could well be. It really could well be.
That sucks.
But I'm over it.
That sucks getting it twice.
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad the second time around because I'd had the injections because I'm fully inoculated, so it was a lot less than what it was the first time. The first time really put me on my back.
Yeah.
This time, no, it was, you know, it wasn't nice. The cough wasn't nice. That was the worst part this time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm better.
Oh, good.
And you? What about you? What have you been up to? I know you've been away for the weekend, and I know that you've been seeing things that are rather unusual.
Well, I mean, I was traveling for a week before that. Yeah. I had to go out to Colorado. My mother had knee surgery. She's like 84, so I had to go out and help her for the first week while she was recovering, and then came home, went away for an extended weekend with my wife's family down to the Jersey Shore, as they say.
Jersey Shore?
Jersey Shore.
Jersey.
Joyzy.
That's it. Joyzy. That's a sweater over here.
Yeah, all the way down near Cape May and Wildwood. It's nice. I like going down there. Sat on the beach, got sunburnt.
Did you get sunburned?
Oh, yeah. Not bad, but everywhere I thought I put...
You look like a little lobster, don't you?
Well, everywhere I thought I put sunscreen, I see where I missed. Let's put it that way.
You've got white patches.
Yeah, white and red. But yeah, had a very, very interesting experience on Saturday night. Now, I've mentioned this before on our show. It was back in January of 2018. About 7 o'clock at night, my wife and I were driving here locally and driving towards a restaurant, and in the sky, we saw this long series of orangish, reddish lights that were flying in a long formation. There must have been about 15 to 20 of them. Not in a straight line. They were all like scattered, but in this long trail-like line. And they were flying from the one horizon to the other. They flew directly past us. I couldn't get any video on them because I was stuck in traffic and couldn't look at it real good. But I did watch them go by. And I've never been able to figure out what they were. I don't think they were drones because they were flying too long, too far, no sound. I rolled down my window. There was no sound. And they were all one light, where drones usually have, like flying lights on them, red and green and such. But these were solid orange orbs. So I never said that I thought that they were extraterrestrials, but they were the true definition of a UFO, an unidentified flying object. Well, Saturday night, I'm sitting out with my wife and my sister-in-law. They have the hotel we were at had this second story deck that with lawn chairs you could sit out at. So we were sitting out there. Balcony, yes. Having a glass of wine and just enjoying the cool night breeze. And while we're talking, I looked over above one hotel that was right next to us, and I saw this orange globe that looked almost identical to the one I saw back in 2018. And it was flying in a straight direction very slowly over the hotel. I watched it for a minute, and then something happened where I turned my head, I closed my eyes, and when I looked back, it was gone. So I thought, okay, maybe it's an airplane. A minute later, a real airplane flew over with the blinking lights, and it was much smaller, and it was clearly an airplane. So something made me just go, okay. So I silently thought, put it out there. I said,
silently,
in my head, I said, if I saw what I think I saw, could you show yourselves again? And then a few more minutes passed by. We were sitting there talking, and then all of a sudden, to the south, way down the shore, I saw another one heading our way, and right behind it was a second one. And they were coming closer and closer, and I couldn't tell. They were about a mile away. I couldn't tell how fast they were going. If I had to guess, they were several hundred feet in the air. And, I thought maybe helicopters, maybe, I don't know. But then they got to a point, and then they hovered there. And then one slowly faded out, and the other one was hanging there. And as it was there, two more started coming up the coast. Then that one faded out. Then these two come up. They all stopped in the same spot. And as they started to fade out, two more come up the coast. So a total of 6 of these orange, reddish globes that weren't blinking, absolutely solid lights. And they would come up the coast until they got to the exact same spot. Then they would hover there in the sky, and then they would slowly fade out one by one. Now, I have no freaking idea what they were. And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I saw extraterrestrials. I saw lights in the sky I could not explain. They didn't make any maneuvers that were unnatural. They moved slowly, steadily. The fading out part and totally vanishing was interesting. I don't know.
And all of you saw this.
All of it saw it. In fact, on my Facebook page, I tried to shoot video of it, and my camera acted up, and it recorded like 1 second of video. Thankfully, my sister-in-law, she had her camera going, and she recorded it. So it's on the same post. So you can, and she got about half of the event. So anyone who wants to take a look at that, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll find my post. And then if you want to see the full, the longer video in pretty good resolution, it's on my Facebook page. But again, totally silent. They didn't buzz like drones. They moved very slowly, but it's just how they flew up in formations of 2. Moved off a little over the ocean a bit and then faded out one by one. Very, very interesting.
It is. Yeah.
So.
Unidentified.
And did they show up again because I asked them to? Now, my wife is convinced it's something military because there are military bases not too far away. I mean, where we're not very far from Washington, D.C. and other military bases. Could have been something, military. Quite possibly. I don't know. It's just, again, it's an unknown.
Yeah, very strange. You didn't lose any time then?
No. The three of us were just sitting there watching the whole thing until it was over. Still enjoyed my wine, so.
So it was quite an exciting thing for you, seeing these.
Well, I was fascinated while it was happening. I don't get too excited about it. Because I'm sitting there curious. I just like the fact that I saw it with other people. Yeah. So we had some validation. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything up in the sky for some time. Not that I've been looking anyway, but Your
UFO highway's been unusually quiet?
Well, yeah. It has actually. Well, I don't know, because I haven't really bothered to look. I don't bother anymore. I used to at one time sit out there and have a glass of wine or something and look up at the stars and see stuff, but it's been too cold lately, Mark.
Well, if it warms up and you sit out there again, bring your camera with you just in case.
Yeah, this is meant to be August. God knows where the summer went.
Yeah, it's been hot here, and now it's cool here, so go figure. It's just been the weirdest weather we've had.
I had the central heating on earlier on during the week. That's how stupid it all is. Call it global warming.
Global warming, global climate change, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about anything right now. Everything is just so crazy.
Well, it's just rained and wind and cold, and it's not like August at all. But you can't complain. We did have a week in July. I think.
That's true. A little bit of a summer. Well, you're in Wales. You get very weird weather there anyway.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Anyway, so shall we get...
Let's get on with the show.
Yeah.
So let me introduce our guest. Our guest tonight is Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. Now, Kimberly is an internationally renowned naturopathic doctor. I think I said that right. Energy healer, remote viewer, paranormal expert, and consciousness teacher. So, Kimberly, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much. That's my favorite bio ever. It's the shortest. Usually I have to listen to like a page bio about myself, which is awkward.
Well, you know what? I figured I was reading the whole bio here, and I figured, you know what? I'll keep it short and then let you explain it. And that way you can use your own.
Not my favorite. I'm just kidding.
Well, welcome to the program. And, reading your bio and reading some of the things that you've been involved with, I think we're going to have some great discussions tonight, because there's a lot here that Irene and I are very well versed in. And so hopefully we have a lot of fun with it. Now, just for our listening audience, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? You can give us the Cliff Notes version of who you are and how did you get involved with all the things that you've gotten involved with.
Yeah, I'll try to make it short. So I was born... Oh, sorry, my dogs are acting up all of a sudden. I was born with pretty high-level remote viewing skills. My mom would put me down for naps. I would see the ceiling open up and kind of like a universe type thing, and there were figures with doorways, and I would go through them and kind of wander around the multiverse, I guess would be a more appropriate term. And then some of these beings would come into the room, and I would interact with them. Sometimes they would tell me to do naughty things, like, wouldn't it be a good idea if you dumped out your mother's perfume? I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And so I dumped out fun. I'm so dumb, right? So I would dump out like this perfume, and my mom would be like, why does it smell like perfume in here? And, as a kid, you lie sometimes. I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, did you dump out my perfume from my honeymoon in Hawaii? I'm like, maybe. So I got in a lot of trouble. One time there was an old man, and he said, wouldn't it be fun to poke your brother with a diaper pin? And I'm like, yeah, it kind of would. And so, yeah, I did all kinds of things the spirits told me to do. Of course, that was not an excuse with my parents, the whole devil made me do it type of thing. So it kind of started like that. Didn't go so well with my parents. My family is very religious. My dad was a pastor. So I like to say, I know my gifts are real because I've been exorcised many times and they are still there.
You've been exorcised.
Oh, yeah. Many, many times. Yes.
Somebody should exercise me because I used to do all that sort of thing and I didn't have any beings telling me to do it.
Oh,
yeah, she was just incorrigible.
That makes me feel better.
A naughty girl.
Yeah, she is incorrigible.
You're my kind of girl. I love it, Irene. I love it. And then as I got older, so of course I shut down. I don't know if I completely shut down my abilities, but I kind of did when I realized not everybody, we discover when we go to school that we're different, and not everybody, sees what we see, knows what we know type of thing. And so when I went to college, I decided to kind of bring those party tricks out, and they made me very popular. I could say, is my boyfriend going to ask me to marry him, or is my girlfriend cheating on me, that kind of thing. So I kind of stepped a little bit more into who I was then, and I don't even know how, but somehow local law enforcement got kind of wind of me, and I helped out in a few occult cases with them when I was 20 years old. And then it kind of, again, went back home to Columbus, Ohio, kind of got away from it, did the 3D life, got married, had kids, started struggling a lot with postpartum depression and anxiety. And I mean, I'm kind of old, so I didn't realize there was something called alternative health. It wasn't popular like it is now, at least in America. And so I stumbled, one day on the internet that, there were alternative solutions for, depression, anxiety. I got into herbs. I became a, master herbalist, then eventually a naturopath. And I eventually had 4 clinics in Columbus, Ohio, in-person locations. It's not so popular now. Everything's, over the internet and over the phone. And so then during that whole time, I discovered my girls, when they were born, I had 4 children, also had crazy abilities. One of my daughters sees auras. One of my daughters, like the ghost whisperer, she sees like spirits everywhere all the time. I have another daughter who's a really strong empath, and they just all have their own unique abilities, but very, very strong. So I started doing house clearings with my 12-year-old. She would go with me because my seeing ability at the time wasn't as strong as hers was. I mean, I knew kind of how to clear a house, but she would be like, Mom, you missed that one over there, that type of thing. So I would work with my girls when they were growing up, and they got to use their abilities professionally. And then again, I started a podcast years ago, like 12, 13 years ago. And I started working with a lot of the popular paranormal groups as their psychic medium. A lot of them had TV shows or local TV shows. So they wanted to get good TV. And we all know here, and your audience probably knows, if you've ever been on a real paranormal investigation, there's no guarantee there's going to be something really interesting that happens. Most of them are.
That's right.
For absolutely hours.
Thank you. That's it. So if you have someone that can see or hear or go and view it, so I would go ahead of them and I would say, okay, here's who might appear. Here's what you need to look for. Here's how you need to interact with them. Here's who you need to be careful of. Here's where you need to set up your cameras. And of course, they like that because it saved them a lot of time, because what people don't realize is they assume in paranormal teams that everybody there is gifted and psychic and has their own abilities. And a lot of times it's just people that are passionately interested in the paranormal and they don't have developed abilities. So, that's why a lot of paranormal teams get frustrated. I mean, you learn, we all know, we all learn I do, every investigation I've ever done and every interaction I have. I learned something, and I'm sure people, do sharpen their abilities and they do turn on just by being exposed. So that's kind of how I got known in the paranormal world. And along that same time, I continued to grow in my naturopathic practice, brought in frequency medicine. I don't even know, again, how we end up where we end up, but I became quite skilled in using frequencies. I designed one app, the hardware. I write software for the second app. And I've designed, as a freelance contractor, I help design frequencies for multiple companies, medical technology. So that's kind of the short version.
Short version. You've covered your whole life in about 10 minutes.
But I try to do it quick.
Well, when you say designing frequencies, what are you talking about? Writing in terms of software development or?
Well, software development. So, I was dating a neurosurgeon from Johns Hopkins, and I was just getting into frequency medicine and using it with my clients, and homeopathy, which is frequency medicine. It's just the old-fashioned term for frequency medicine. And he said, why don't you use musical tracks and embed layers of frequency for different things and give it to your clients when, so that they have something to use. It's not just like a one-time interaction where they pay to see you and then you're like, okay, good luck, do what I told you. But you're actually giving them something visceral that they don't have to swallow, that they don't have to apply for their skin, that they can easily flip on in the car. They don't even have to play it out loud. And so we experimented for years doing that, and we found a very, very effective way of delivering frequency tracks, through music or through inaudible, kind of sounds. Of course, it's audible, but not necessarily to the human ear. So he suggested that. And so now I do write the frequency programs. A lot of these things like Healy, I don't work for Healy, but like Healy, that's a popular one. They deliver, programs of frequency for migraines or for depression or for hormonal balance or for sleep, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So I write panels for my own apps and other people's technology. I write the numeric frequency layers they tell me what they want and I make it happen. Put it that way.
It's like using infrasound or ultrasound.
Absolutely.
Just outside,
yes.
Or even like binaural beats. I mean, I know
exactly similar.
A lot of people use binaural beats to help get into a certain meditative or certain alpha state when they're meditating or remote viewing or astral traveling.
Absolutely. Definitely it's, using sound and frequency to affect emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical change. But what it really excels in is the technology is so brilliant. I always say to my clients, what if you could know anything, anywhere, anytime, past, present, future, about anyone, anything, any place? And they're like, sign me up. And that's the level of technology that we have accessible to us right now. And I say all the time, my technology and how I used it, of course, there's a knowledge base behind it, and you guys understand that. I mean, Irene, gosh, I was just basking. I was kind of reading Irene, like she's like amazing. Like, wow, I would love to spend like a weekend with, I'd probably like to spend a year with Irene, like her experiences.
Me.
And yes, and the richness of your gifts. I mean, impressive. But,
you
anyway.
Reading me. What do you mean? You were reading me on the computer?
While you were talking, I was kind of looking into like the essence of you, and it's just very powerful and very rich and very beautiful. But
I am very unusual.
Yeah, but you're very real. I guess I just immediately, don't meet that many high level, really experienced in the field, gifted people, and I could just immediately tell. Yeah, you're the real deal, and so it's just nice. I was enjoying you talking about that little vignette you guys did, and I also enjoyed Mark's UFO experience too. So anyway, okay, I'll stop talking.
Yeah, Irene's sitting here all special, and I'm sitting here over here going, sure, fine. I'm gonna go pout a little bit.
Well, you've got me to a T. You have got me to a T. I am totally different to the normal person, I've got to admit.
And, I love it.
But I'm very grounded as well, and I can
That's
be
also
kind.
Unusual. That's also
I can
unusual.
be kind.
I can be kind. I love it.
I can be kind, but I can be the bitch from hell as well.
Yeah, I don't think, Irene, you put up with a lot of BS. I don't think you appreciate it.
No, I don't put up with that
in others at all, and I don't think you are a BSer. So, yeah.
No, I don't. I cannot take BS. I really cannot take BS.
Well, I will say, Kimberly, that knowing Irene for as long as I have, and she usually doesn't talk about her stuff. And so hearing what you're saying, I'm sitting here, I'm going to admit I'm impressed because you're hitting it right on the head.
You're the only person I talk to, aren't you?
Yep.
I don't talk to anybody about what I do.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, wow.
No.
Only hints here and there.
But you have hit me on that. You have got me down to a T. I got to admit that. And I'm quite shocked. That's very rare. Very rare for somebody to actually be able to read me the way that you've just done.
Well, we carry every single thing about us in the frequency of our voice. That's how my technology takes voice prints. That's one of the ways it works, pictures or voice prints. So being in frequency for 30 years, I've gotten really good at reading voices.
Well, you've nearly been at it as long as me. How long have I been at it, Mark?
I don't know, since the Stone Age.
Yeah. You're talking about you being old.
I mean, was the wheel invented back then?
Sorry?
Was the wheel invented back then?
The wheel? No, actually, I saw that in a remote view. And I did tip the bloke off about that when he made it.
Oh, sure.
When I went back on a timeline.
Oh, that's true. Well, you do have a habit of jumping back and forth with timelines and realities.
And dimensions, yeah, I love it.
She's a little bit of a dimension hopper.
I love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, old soul. Yep, for sure.
Got the old part right.
I'm sorry, no offense.
I'm here all week, folks. Try the veal.
You know something, Kimberly? I have really not had a lot to do with him in the last couple of weeks because I've been ill. And now he's taking advantage. And I'm going to zap him later on the back of the head, even though he's 6,000 miles away. And he's going to feel it.
Yeah, but this is what we haven't been able to take the piss out of each other in a while, too, because I've been busy, you've been busy. So, but now we're back at it.
Yeah, we're back.
Yep.
We're back.
So
Kimberly is... what?
Go ahead, Irene.
Go on, then.
Nope. Ladies first.
No? Okay. Right. You sound like you've had a very, very interesting life. Have you enjoyed doing all this, Kimberly?
I have. I've also had a very challenging life, coming to terms as, I don't know, not everyone has the same journey, so maybe it wasn't your journey, but it's very difficult coming to terms with the variety of gifts and then figuring out how to use them like in a coherent way to make a living, if that makes sense. So finally, I guess I stumbled on it. And so I'm really, really thankful that now I just have to be me. And the more authentic I am and the more open and honest I am, I feel there's a little bit of like reward from the universe. But really, there was a lot of struggle and there was a lot of pain. And I think that does give me true empathy and true compassion. You know, I haven't always been successful, and I haven't always been able to pay my bills, and, you know, people don't believe it. You know, I hate to tell victim stories, but I was a single mom, you know, 4 little girls under 12, and I didn't get child support. And I struggled. I mean, I had to take other jobs as I was building my business. And, you know, people don't believe me when I tell them I used to crawl through the couch cushions for gas money to get to work. And that's very humbling. I used to borrow money from my kids until payday. I mean, that's just humbling, but yet that's how a lot of the world lives right now, and worse. And so I just think it's given me kind of like you, I mean, like just a realism and an approachability that not everyone in these fields, you know, of the paranormal and alternative health and consciousness and cryptozoology, some of these people just are so unrelatable and untouchable. But, you know, I'm very familiar with pain, and I'm very familiar with poverty, and I'm very familiar with depression, and I'm also familiar with the other side of it. So I think it really plays into being able to help my clients in a very authentic way. Yeah. It's strange that most people that have these gifts do struggle with life. You know? Isn't it? There are struggles in life. Even I've had struggles. I remember there was times when we couldn't even feed our children. Yes. You know? Oh gosh, yeah. I know, it's just heart-wrenching, and it's confusing. You know, I think we're some of the most tuned in people probably in society, and yet sometimes not very functional in a 3D way. It's interesting, you know? Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. Now, what did you want to say, Markle Farkle? Well, now you interrupted me and I forgot. Actually, I just wanted to touch back on when you were talking about the frequencies and energies. See, one of the things that I've always been fascinated with, and what I've totally believed, because I'm a history nut, but I'm also an alternative history nut, because I look back beyond what they tell us is real and look into what actually has happened, or hints of what's really gone on with our history. And I do believe that, you know, whether people want to call it ancient aliens, or I kind of lean towards maybe they were there, but also I think our civilization was far more advanced way in the distant past, before the cataclysm. People think of the Great Flood, or whatever you want to call it. But a lot of the frequencies and sound we're beginning to learn played a huge part in a lot of the technology. It deals a lot with healing. It deals a lot with how a lot of these megalithic structures were built. They were all based on sound, and sound is frequencies, energy. And I think that's something that we've lost. And I think it could definitely help in a lot of different ways, especially in medicine. Absolutely. I do think, though, and it started about 10 years ago when I used to be on telesummits, I would talk about frequency, and people acted like I had 5 heads, like it just wasn't a familiar term. But it does seem to be pretty understood what frequency, not just the word energy, but really what frequency means. I don't often have to explain it. I used to have to go into my whole radio station tuning dial explanation. But people seem to really understand, you know, when I say, you know, we're like broadcast antennas, and we broadcast all our emotions, all our belief systems, all our history. I mean, people think that our memories are stored in our brain, but your memory isn't stored in your brain. Your memory is stored in your energy field, which is very interesting. It's also how a very real psychic, or a very good psychic, can read your history. It would be harder to access someone's brain, I imagine, than it would be to read what's right there, you know, in the energy field. Their energy, their aura, so to speak. Yes, it's encoded, you know, there. Even if they don't have access to it, we still carry not just this life, but we carry every life we've ever lived as an expression of consciousness, as a spirit. We carry that with us in our energy field, despite all the brilliant mind-wiping technology that they have. today. So definitely the military has, and, the Vatican, I believe, Mark, has privy to I heard that they have the originals, that they didn't burn the originals in that fire, the library of, is it Alexandria? Is that what it is?
Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alexandria.
Alexandria.
Thank you. Yeah, Alexandria. Everybody thinks, they burned that to destroy history, but I've been told by certain people that they actually have the original manuscripts. They didn't burn the originals. They used that as the cover to clean it out and take it. And the Vatican and other corporations actually have a lot of what you would probably call more real history, Mark. And so the military and the corporations, the rich always have access to the stuff that us peasants don't have access to, it seems,
Isn't that the case? Yes. Well, the vaults under the Vatican is long rumored to hold all sorts of different things that are absolutely off limits to only a select few.
Wouldn't you love that, though? Wouldn't you love to get into that, Mark? You never come back.
Yeah, well, the problem is I'd have to read ancient Greek or Aramaic or
that's a good point too. It's in so many
Latin
different,
or whatever it was written in at the time, and I can barely read English.
I don't believe that.
But yeah, it's just so much information that just fascinates me about what our real history is, and what we're based compared to what we're told and what's really out there. And if most people really knew our history, I think they'd revolt. But well, I think people would be very angry.
And why do you think that? So what is it about the real history that makes you think people would revolt?
Being lied to, being manipulated to keep people in line and keep us subservient and to the powers that be, whoever they may have been throughout all of the centuries. There's always people in power, and they want to keep the general populace in control, and they'll tell them what they need to. I mean, they'll look for a perfect example. I'm going to look at one religion right now, Christianity, okay, and the whole concept of hell. And especially with Catholicism and all the different, well, if you do this, you go to hell. You're going to go burn in hell forever. And, when you start to realize that there really is no hell, at least not in the way that, we think of, just because you didn't go in and confess your sins to some priest in a cubicle doesn't mean you're going to burn in hell forever, because and also all the parts about reincarnation being removed or mostly removed from the Bible. There's still some hints of it in there, like being born again. Good point. That's still in there, but they don't understand what that means. So it's just...
it's so funny, Mark. I got to tell you this really quick. I was just thinking about this driving to pick my dogs up from the groomer. I was thinking, I am so glad I'm not plugged into Christianity, because one of the things that never made sense to me was my parents are like, well, and the pastor and everything, they're like, you have to pray when you commit a sin. But where in the Bible does it really list all the sins? So how do you even know all the sins that you can commit? Of course, we have the 10 Commandments, but they say there's more sins than that. But if you've ever read the Bible doesn't list 5,000 sins. So it's always this game, did I confess the right ones? Did I confess it enough? Am I doing something that I don't know? There's sins of omission and sins of commission. And it's a mess. That's a whole mess, So glad I'm out of that. Very freeing.
I'm just going to bring this up. I'm not going to dwell on it. I grew up in the Christian church, Presbyterian church, when I lived in Los Angeles. And, and I read the Bible, read the whole thing cover to cover. I'm very familiar with it. And I know of all the different contradictions and even how vastly different the Old Testament is compared to the New Testament. And, to the point where I think, the God of the Old Testament is not the same God of the New Testament. I think we're dealing with gods or God or gods, lowercase g. Now, again, if you want to talk about the ancient alien theory or other, maybe advanced civilizations, that's where I think that comes in. Because all the jealousy and all the evil things that were done to people if they didn't believe or behave, I have a problem with that. But right now, there's this program that's on. It's a crowd-funded program. The first season's on Peacock right now, but you can also watch it for free online. Have you heard of The Chosen?
Oh, The Chosen.
Everybody's been telling me about.
You know what? I just started watching it a few weeks ago, and it's a crowd-funded show based on the life of Jesus. And it is the first show that I'm going to say right now, as someone who doesn't consider himself a Christian, the show is fantastic. And what's great about the show is it's not beating you over the head with religion. The characters are incredibly well written. In some aspects, sometimes you feel like it's almost like Game of Thrones in terms of production value and the characters and how well it's written and directed and photographed for crowdfunded. People have donated money, and that's how they've gotten this show to be produced. They're on their second season right now, and they're raising money for their third. But what I really like about the show is the actor who plays Jesus and how they write him. It doesn't seem religious at all. I mean, yes, he performs miracles and whatnot, but he is the most down-to-earth, realistic human version of Jesus I've ever seen. Both, amusing at times. You can kind of also see his torment at times, and knowing the burden that he has going forward. And it's just how they handled it. It brings up, because I'm a spiritual person, and it really brings out and touches me on a spiritual side without having to beat you over the head with the actual religion side of it, if that makes any sense. And that's why I'll recommend it to anybody who wants to watch it, because it really does give you a unique perspective that hasn't ever been filmed before. Now, do I 100% agree with everything they're doing in the show or what they say in the show? No, because sometimes they take things a little too literal. But for what it is, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Now, that is a tip off, people. Go and watch The Chosen.
Yeah. That's just my opinion.
Endorsed by Mark.
Yep.
Endorsed by Mark. Right, so cryptids. Now, this is not a big area I normally get into. So, how did you get into cryptids, Kimberly?
That's kind of again, nothing I chose. I was more into, like I said, the normal paranormal stuff. I was, how everybody gets into everything these days. I was watching something, I don't even remember what, on YouTube. And then, we go down the bunny trail and they keep advertising videos on the side. And all of a sudden it said, man finds Bigfoot in his backyard. Well, oh my gosh, you have to watch that. It's like a train wreck. You have to watch the man who finds Bigfoot in his backyard. So I started watching this video, and I'm like, this guy was a Southern hillbilly. I'm like, this guy is a crack.
Hold on, Mark, have we not interviewed him?
Have you?
Mark.
Yeah, which... I missed some of that. I had to step away for a second. So, which gentleman?
Do you remember the fella that used to talk to Bigfoot?
Oh, yes, Mike. I forget his last name. He used to have a YouTube channel, Sasquatch Ontario.
No, I know him, but this was a different guy. I wasn't watching him. This is a guy named Wayne Wilson, C. Wayne Wilson. He lives an hour away from me in North Carolina. And so I'm watching him, and I'm like, okay, I can't. This guy's crazy. He's a loon. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm crazy and I'm a loon, because everything he would say, he's like, do you see the female? Do you see her breast? She's holding a baby. And I'm like, I'm crazy too, because I could see it. And so me being me, I stalk him on Facebook and I get his number and I call him up. I'm like, you don't know me, but I was watching your videos on YouTube and I live really close to you. Can I come to your backyard with my daughter and a video camera and see if we can see them? And he's like, oh, sure, come on over. And I pulled up to his house and there's a field across from his house. And it was a still day, no wind, nothing. And they all came to the edge of the field and the babies were swinging on the branches and the branches were swinging, no wind. I mean, blew my mind. And he and I are great friends. We've actually done a movie together. It's his movie, and I'm me and my dog play a co-starring role in it, but it's called My Journey with Monsters, and it's on Amazon, I believe.
Really? I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't mean to, but once, and Irene, I don't know if you found this is true of a new ability, but so to me, paranormal abilities are a matter of perception and allowance. So part of it's your skill and maybe your pineal gland, maybe your chakras, maybe your DNA, maybe natural giftings, all these unknown things that I'm not sure we have the whole formula figured out. But to me, it's also allowance. What do we allow in our belief system? Kind of like what we were talking about with religion, and programming is what we were kind of talking about earlier. But I never really had allowed for cryptids. I call them cryptos, and everybody says that's wrong, but I don't care because that's what I call them. But, I never allowed for, these interdimensional creatures in my reality other than fairies. I had allowed for fairies, but I never really thought I would have this relationship with monsters. And it's mind-blowing because on my property now, I live in what they call a habitation spot. So I have dogmen, I have all kinds of interdimensionals, not just Sasquatch, but we don't know. The Vedas talk about 2,000 different varieties. So I have a lot of different varieties of, beings on my property. But I'm really thankful to Wayne for opening it up because it's actually kind of taken over. Paranormal's always been with me, so that'll always be a part of my life. But now my focus, because they're so up close and personal, they build structures. They leave me beautiful, beautiful crystals that they dig out of the ground because my house is built on 4 acres of a quartz, basically mine or bed. And so there's beautiful, beautiful crystals. They leave me in certain places all the time. So I just have this amazing relationship now, with these beings and with their children. So it's really added, this huge, beautiful dimension to my life that I didn't have before. And my daughters are always like, Mom, you're so weird. How can you live out in the middle of creepy woods? You don't have any friends. I'm like, oh, I have lots of friends. Don't worry about me,
Well, as far as Bigfoot goes, do you feel that it is an interdimensional type of being or just a physical undiscovered hominid?
That's a tricky question because I believe it's a higher vibrational physical being. So is it a physical being that we can touch here? Yes. The reason people can't, or, the reason everybody's not seeing them or any of these beings is because I think you have to have a higher frequency. I always say you cannot be or see any less or more than what you are already being. So, and in a way, I'm going to compliment you too, Mark. I believe you are an awakened person. I believe you're an older soul. I believe you have abilities because I don't believe that you would be allowed or be seen this kind of UFO, or even if it's military. I just think there's a resonance there with you and whether they're terrestrials, from bases, or whether they're extraterrestrials from outside the system. I still think there seems to be, when I look at your energy field, there seems to be a relationship with those beings with you. So, and I think you have allowance for it. Maybe you don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers about anything. I don't think Irene would say she has all the answers about paranormal things. She only knows what she knows in her experience and what she's learned. And, but I still think, Irene has a resonance with the invisible and with the dimensional, and you have a resonance, I think, with kind of the ETs.
That's interesting.
There you go.
Because
see, I told you had something, Mark.
Possibly. I mean, I've never, up until these last couple of years, I've never seen a UFO. I've never had any experiences that I can remember. I've always been fascinated in the subject. There's
you had a weird experience once where you saw what looked like a Bigfoot.
Oh.
Don't you remember going past in your yard or something, going past the door?
No, that wasn't me.
Isn't it?
Nope. Unless it was that other me you
hand.
talked to in the other dimension. That wasn't me.
Oh, all right then. Must have been another you.
Yeah.
So Irene, have you interacted with any of the dimensional beings like the Fae or the little people or the cryptids? Have you had any encounters?
Oh, well, I've got a boggart that lives under my stairs. Little devil is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. No, you would not believe this house that I live in. It was the deacon's house. He was a deacon. But the whole house is surrounded by hawthorn bushes and special protection things that were built in round the house. Yeah. And, well, there's a lot goes on here in the way of weird stuff. Very, very weird stuff.
Well,
I know this little devil is in the house.
Well, see, she's
fun, though.
also had an experience which we've discussed before, where you saw those two
Invisible beings
in your yard that look like, when you see the Predator from the Predator movies, how it's cloaked.
Yes.
There were two occasions where she saw two of them in her back garden. And both times, one of them approached her.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
And what did you do, Irene?
Well, the very first time it happened, this thing wasn't much. It was about my height, maybe a little bit smaller, the very first time. And as it approached me, do you know if you put the palm of your hand up to someone and say, don't go there, sort of thing?
Yep, absolutely.
With that gesture. I done that, right? Up goes the palm of my hand, and the words F off came straight out of my mouth.
I love you.
Right? And this thing started to go backwards. It didn't turn around and walk. It walked backwards away from me.
That's your power. Yeah, I felt your power. Mm-hmm.
Right? It walked away from me backwards, and then it just kind of disappeared as it got about 12 or 14 foot away from me. The second time, I was letting the dogs out in the garden. They were down at the bottom of the garden, and I was on the patio, and it approached me, and now this time I'm sure it was the same one, but a lot bigger.
Like it had grown up. It had grown up.
And it and I allowed it to come close, and it got to it was standing right in front of me, about a foot away from me. And
wow, that's close.
And I know it actually talked with me, or taught me something, or downloaded something into me that I cannot find out. I cannot remember. And I just feel that whatever it is will come out when the time's right for it to come out.
Sure.
And then the dogs come running up from the garden. They got to the other end of the patio, which was about, 30 foot away, and started barking and growling. I'm calling the dogs to come to me. They wouldn't come. Their hackles were up and everything. They could see it as well.
Sure.
Yeah. So...
Interesting.
Two occasions, but I'm sure it must have been the same one. It just felt the same.
Yeah, I bet you're right. I bet it was a juvenile the first time.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
But it was like shimmering, like an invisible being sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was shimmering.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned the Fae. I know a lot of people talk about the Fae, and I'd like to understand your interpretation of that, because you have people who talk about the Fae like the magical, almost like love and light, little mystical, little people with wings, kind of. But then there's the traditional stories, the Celtic stories of the Fae coming out of Ireland and England and Wales, where they're not so cute, and it's a lot more I won't say nasty, but it could be more dangerous. And
in other words, they can be little buggers, and put a bit of iron on the door, keep them out.
Yeah, I sleep. I have an iron horseshoe because of them on my bed, because that's one of my rules is you don't disturb me in my bedroom. But the pixies in my house, their favorite thing to do, and I'm looking at one right now because I didn't fix it this morning, they love to tilt all my pictures. So every night we play this game where while I'm sleeping, they tilt every single picture. And then in the morning, I straighten every single picture. They've also taken some things that I'm not too thrilled about, like my very, very favorite ring. It was a sterling silver tree ring, which obviously they liked as well. And they took that and they have not returned it as of yet.
Do you know what I've lost? I've lost about 20 pairs of eyeglasses.
Oh my God!
God knows how many cigarette lighters. I don't smoke now, but when I did smoke, the bloody things kept taking the cigarette lighters. Can you excuse me a minute? I've just had Herbert open the door to the utility room. Just want to shut it, all right?
Her ghost is acting up.
Probably. Oh, wow. I wonder what they wanted to do with those cigarette lighters. Wow. I sent you some pictures to your actual, not to your page, like you told me, because I didn't see that, but to the radio page. And so I sent you a picture. I had a little person greet me on my security camera. He was there for 3 days. But pictures of him. Some people consider them fae. I consider them in the fae category, but not a fairy. They don't have wings. And I did send you a picture of 2 fairies, which do seem to be, to me, more light-filled. But I think we mix words so much. I think there's such a different variety in each kingdom. And to me, they're just like the Sasquatch and the Dogman. Again, I think they're higher vibrational beings that have a physicality to them that some people, have the frequency to see. As we rise in our frequency, we can see more 4th density, 5th density, 6th density creatures. But I do think all dimensions or densities overlap with this one, so there's really no end to what we can see. I think there's much more out there than spaceships and ETs and fairies and Sasquatch and Dogmen and ghosts. I think there's lots. And well, if you travel, you know that, Irene. If you're a dimensional traveler, you know what I'm talking about. There's just infinite places and realms and timelines and possibilities. It's pretty exciting and interesting, actually.
Well, you mentioned one.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to interrupt you, sweetie.
Go ahead.
Did you say that you sent us 2 photographs or a photograph?
I sent you, I think, 7 or 8 to Facebook. To your,
all right. I'll go on Facebook. Okay.
Not to Mark's. You gave me that, and I haven't connected with him, but I did send it to your radio page. I am on Facebook.
All right, then I'll have a look for that.
Okay.
You may resume, Marco.
Okay. Yep, I see them here.
Oh, have you?
Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah, the one cryptid you mentioned, I mean, I've heard of a lot of different cryptids, and I'm very open-minded, but the one I always still have a issue with is what they call Dogman.
I can hear some footsteps. Who's that, Molly?
Oh, yes, that's Molly tip-tapping behind me here, looking for her cookie.
Now I've remote viewed Dogman in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. There's a lot of them there. Yeah.
No, but
carry on, Mark.
So I'm assuming these creatures are real.
Well, I mean, I guess real to the people that see them. They're real on my property. They travel with a Sasquatch. Sometimes they're enemies and they're territorial. Often they're friends, and they coexist and help each other kind of live in their, and obtain what they each need to survive.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just for whatever reason, I always kind of struggled with that one. But, again, I try to be open-minded.
Are you familiar with the military's hybrid program? Oh, see, I have family in human cloning, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of things that people are like, no, that doesn't exist. I'm like, well, my family gets paid for doing that, so it does exist. But so, once you allow for human cloning and then you understand they can mix, and if we read, and Mark, you should be up on this. You should be all into Dogman because of all the creatures from like the Greece myths, I say is truth, and Roman mythology. They talked a lot about those kind of creatures, which I believe, the minotaurs and, all that stuff, I believe is 100% truth. I think they were hybrids back then. They have hybrid programs in the military now. One of the stories about Sasquatch is that, and most of us have seen Star Wars. And of course, the Sasquatch in Star Wars is Chewbacca, and which is based on the Sasquatch. And the story is that the military did an experiment and militarized a whole breed or strand or variety of them. And they were way too smart, way too strong, way too psychic for the military. So they decided to eliminate their experiment in the underground bases. But the Sasquatch, being psychic, got wind of that, and a lot of them escaped. And supposedly this happened in some bases that were in the northwest of the United States, which is why I believe you see a large concentration of the more physical ones that aren't so dimensional. The Patty type, although I don't personally believe, I wonder what Irene would think of this if she remote view it. I believe Patty was a fraud, but I do believe
Patty who?
Patty the Sasquatch. You've seen the Sasquatch film. What do you call it? What's the name of it?
Oh, the Patterson?
Gremlin film, or the Bob
the
Gremlin,
Patterson Gimlin film.
The Patterson film.
Yeah. Thank you. Patterson, yes. I believe that was a fraud, but I've seen, other pictures, and I have video where I'm not an adult one, but where I'm 3 feet from I call it in the fur when they're in the physical, young one. So I do believe that people have these encounters with very physical type of beings like Patty. I just believe Patty was a convenient setup film for, everybody wants to get Sasquatch on film, right? You become very wealthy.
Oh, yeah. It's like everybody wants that picture of that ghost, don't they?
Oh, well, yeah. If only they understand ghosts a little better. It's not quite that easy.
Well, that's the problem.
I've got one of mine.
That's the problem with getting pictures of any of these things. You show them around, and every skeptic in the world rips them apart, and nobody considers any kind of proof.
I honestly think you could introduce... That's what I meant about allowance and perception. We create our own realities. If it's not in your allowance that ghosts exist, you're never going to see a ghost. Even if someone brings a ghost to you and stands it in front of you, like you just said, which is brilliant, Mark, they're going to argue you out of it. They're going to be like, it's a refraction of light. That's a special effects. It doesn't matter. So I think you could introduce someone to your friend, the Sasquatch that lives in your garage in the fur, and he can talk, whatever language they speak, and shake your hand. And I think people would still explain it away. That's the nature of, I think, the lower frequency.
They would. They'd be looking for the zip, wouldn't they?
That's what I'm saying. So I've given up. That's why people are like, why don't you, show? They're like, how many pictures do you have? Probably hundreds of thousands. Why don't you show your pictures all around or do a book? Maybe someday I will. I have nothing to prove. This is my world. This is my reality. I have a relationship with them. I don't care if Irene has one. I don't care if Mark has one. If somebody wants one, I'm happy to invite you into my world and share and teach. But I'm not going to, Mark, you said it. It's exactly like religion. How's it any different? I'm not going to beat people over the head with dogmen or Sasquatch, the little people or fairies or any of it. I'm not.
There's a great line from the movie American Beauty, which is never underestimate the power of denial. And
I love that.
When people do not want, when something jeopardizes their belief system or their paradigm, they will find every excuse in the world to explain it away because it upsets the apple cart too much. It throws their whole belief systems out of whack. And, I'm speaking of my own journey. I mean, yeah, you have had these abilities most of your life, and you grew up in a Christian household. My household wasn't very religious at all. We got dragged to church, but we never really taught God or anything. But,
right.
But I had a Christian upbringing, and it wasn't until my late teens and early 20s that I started to question it, started to realize that I didn't believe it. And I started looking at a different path and started eating things up and learning. And I mean, well, it's been a 37-year learning experience. And my views have changed a couple of different times over the last 30-something years. Too. So every time I think I understand something, more information comes up and makes me completely rethink my views on something. So I do try to keep that open mind.
I love that. You're a very self-actualized person. And of course, Irene is too. And, I'm really enjoying this conversation because I don't get to talk to people that kind of understand the ins and outs of, really a being that's continually, when do we stop learning? I don't think ever. I think, the next life, like it's a growth process, and there's not so much right and wrong as what we're choosing. It's all choice. If you want to be a Christian, I don't try to talk my parents out of Christianity, and, they pretend that they don't think I'm a Satanist, which they think I'm a Satanist, which is fine. It doesn't bother me,
Well, that's okay. My twin brother, one time he passed on a few years ago, but he was very, very religious. And he one time told me that he was going to be very sad that when I die, because he knows he'll never see me again because I'll be burning in hell.
Oh, gosh.
And, well, I laughed in his face. He didn't appreciate that very much. But, I understood that was his belief system. Fine. Now, hopefully, he's in a position to understand better. And he probably knows more than me now. So that's I didn't get too upset with him. I just shook my head and going, oh my God. But that's the way so many people's belief systems are so rigid. And yet at the same time, it's not, you're right. It's not our job to go out and convert people or try to show them, hey, what you believe is wrong, because I'll even quote Jesus here. There are many paths to the Creator, or there are many different paths to getting back to source. And you can come back here as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Hindu, as an atheist, or, with abilities like you and Irene. And it doesn't really matter, because you're here for certain experiences. You learn from all of the experiences you have and take that with you when you cross over. And then
that's right.
Prepare for the next life. And that's what life is all about, is to come here and have experiences.
I totally agree. I think that's really beautiful. Have either you or Irene seen the NASA pictures of the Heaven ship?
The Heaven ship.
You know how Christians say, or other religions, when I die, I'm going to heaven. There's actually a heaven ship. It's all crystalline. I can send them to you. I can send them to you.
Because I'm finding these photographs you sent very interested.
Yeah, so NASA has released, well, I don't know if it's publicly released, but it came into my hands. It fell into my hands through interesting means of the Heaven ship. And purportedly, when people say, they think it's I don't know what they think heaven is, a dimensional other realm. But really, NASA says it's actually a heaven ship, and it meets the description, oddly enough, of our favorite book, the Bible. It says the streets are gold, and it's a crystalline structure. You'll see when I send you the ship. If there was a ship that was a heaven ship, this looks like it, at least on the outside. It's very, very interesting. So, and you know what? Maybe the Christians do go to the Heaven ship or to heaven, and maybe the Muslims do go where the Muslims say they go, and maybe we all do create our own reality. So I think it's really important that I've never really wanted to go to heaven. Probably, I'm not sure it would appeal. I've always been a rebel, and I've never really been interested in Walking Down the Streets of Gold sounded kind of boring to me. Never been that interested in singing. Never really been too into Jesus. So that none of that appeals to me. And so that's not in my reality. But if you want that reality for your next life, as Mark said, you go for it, you know? And I just think it's interesting. I thought that picture was fascinating.
Yeah, sitting on a cloud playing a harp. I'd rather, give me a good Martin guitar and I'll play some Pink Floyd.
There you go. That's an option. Definitely an option. I love it.
Yeah.
You can certainly see Pink Floyd.
So yeah,
send us that picture. Let me have a look at that. I'm interested in that now.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry about this paper.
Yeah, I tried actually looking that up while we were talking, and I couldn't find it online. So I'm definitely interested to see what.
Yeah, I didn't think it was public. It came through military channels, so it might not be. I'm sure it's not for public release because they don't want people to know that there's ships of different types. Because we're alone in the universe, aren't we, people?
Yeah, right. And I got a bridge to sell you.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
we sold you a bridge once.
yeah, you did. It's in Arizona.
Yeah. I know. You thought it was the Tower Bridge, the one that opens up.
Don't blame me. I wasn't there when it was.
You wanted to buy the London Bridge, and you got the London Bridge.
I wasn't there when it was bought.
Biggest joke in America, in England, that is.
But people, I mean even ufology or people abductee or experiencers, whoever you talk to, they talk about all the different types of ships, these motherships. Is that kind of like this heaven ship? Is it a type of mothership? Is it just, like you said, is it another dimension? There's just so much out there we don't know. And
I agree.
Even talking with a lot of experiencers, because I'm very interested in the UFO and abduction. Well, I don't even like the term abduction. The experiencers, I've had a chance to talk with a lot of people like Whitley Strieber, the gentleman. Yeah, we've had Whitley on our show several times. Really, really, really nice gentleman, and his books have always fascinated me because I like his take on it. He asks a lot of questions. He never claims that what he's dealing with is extraterrestrials or aliens. He doesn't know.
Oh, wow.
He keeps a wide open mind.
I love that.
But he's brought up concepts that took me a while that I struggled with for a while, and now I've come to accept it because I've heard of other stories, is that a lot of times when people like him have these abduction experiences or just these experiences, they've also encountered dead people, spirits of people who have passed on, or they look very much alive when they're with them. But he finds out one of his first experiences, there was a person that he knew that he saw on the ship that used to work for the CIA. And it was a month after that experience, he found out that person had died a few months before, and yet was there on the ship. Other people have seen ghosts in terms of or have had ghost-like, poltergeist-like activity in dealing with UFO phenomenon. I dealt with a haunting case here in New Jersey. A couple of houses in the same neighborhood had activity. We investigated off and on for several years. It took a while for me to realize that what we were dealing with was actually elemental or interdimensional. It was attached to the land. It wasn't like a human spirit or ghost.
Wow.
And one morning, the client, she called me up freaking out completely. And she goes, "Mark, you're not going to believe what I told you last night. You'll think I'm crazy if I told you." And it took me 10 minutes to pry it out of her what she saw, because she was so afraid of what I was going to think. And finally, she admitted that she woke up in the night and she saw some kind of white misty thing standing across the room by her dresser. And she said she must have made a noise, because then it turned around and she goes, "Mark, I'm not kidding you. It was a fucking alien." And it looked just like what we consider to be a tall gray type alien. But yet she's never had UFO activity there. It's always been all sorts of different types of paranormal activity. But yet that's what she saw. Now, it's one of those things where it made me realize that so much of what we think of as the paranormal is very much interrelated. And now I've had arguments with people, like, let's say ghost people. I've had people in my own ghost group when I ran it, who, when I mentioned the fact that I was interested in investigating UFOs, thought I was nuts. They go, "Oh my God, you can't do that. People won't take us seriously." Yeah, ghost hunters worried about what people might think if you looked into UFOs, like pot, kettle.
I love it.
But they're closely connected.
It's like everything is closely connected. There's so much that is all around us that we can't see. Yeah. And our 5 senses, can only pick up so much. It's when we tune in more into our 6th sense or tune into those higher vibrations and frequencies, either through meditation or through other techniques, that we're able to start to perceive a small fraction of what really constitutes reality.
One tip I have for people to open up their abilities that keeps coming up when we scan people is their spirits always telling them to go be quiet by water, by ocean, by lake, by stream. So I think there's something with the living aspect of water and the electrical conductivity that if you spend some time, I don't mean spend time like, eating hot dogs and playing rock music and, that kind of thing with your family, fishing. I mean, quiet, alone time. But it seems like there's a connection, obviously, with nature as well, but especially nature and water, I think, is pretty activating for the psychic
Do you know,
ability.
Kimberly, I've done my best work sitting in the loo.
I don't doubt it.
In bathrooms and toilets.
That makes sense.
I'm not kidding you, Mark. I get a hell of a lot when I'm in there.
See, and I get a lot in the shower, and that's similar, similar. Yeah.
There's something about water, and it doesn't matter where that water is, it's some kind of conductor.
Yeah, I really think that helps. I mean, another thing we find that I find interesting, you might find this interesting, Irene, everybody in 3D that teaches psychic abilities, I'm not saying you because I don't know your work, but a lot of the common, I call them new cage or junk consciousness people that, kind of are towing the party line about everything, paranormal, supernatural, but they're all like, open your third eye, your pineal gland's calcified. You cannot see how belief comes into this. You cannot be psychic if your pineal gland's calcified. Well, most people's pineal gland's somewhat calcified, even if, you've worked on it. But what we have found is that you can actually be very, very psychic because you don't just read your spirit, your eternal, infinite consciousness spirit. And yes, the body imprisons you to an extent, but it also doesn't at all. So it's kind of that weird, catch-22 opposite thing. But you don't have to, you can have a calcified pineal gland, you can have closed third eye chakra, all your chakras can be closed and you can be super psychic. We need to stop buying this BS that we're told about what the avatar is, how the avatar functions, because there are no limits to living fire creation spirit.
It's almost like I've heard a lot of people use this comparison. Where we are right now in this 3D physical reality has been likened to the movie The Matrix. It's this world we're in is not the quote unquote real world. It's a small fraction. It's a little aspect out there that we've come here to experience. We're only here for a short period of time. There's a great Tom Waits song that, oh God, what was the lyrics on it? It was like, my body's not my home, I'm just passing through. And
yeah, it's just an avatar. I mean, that's literally all it is. And we're so hung up on the emotions of the body and the mentality of the body and the feelings of the body. And are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you a child? Doesn't matter, people. You're either living fire creation spirit of any race or you're not. Yeah. And that's the only thing that matters. There's an awful lot of blank people with no spirits People can call them all sorts of things. Simulation. A lot of people call them non-character players. There's the clones that do have spirits. There's the clones that don't have spirits. I mean, there's a lot of imposters here now. I have pictures, I think I sent you one, of a woman that was following me around, and she revealed herself in her Draco face. I took that picture from her car mirror, and I can see people's spirits, so I know whether they're empty or full or other races. And if you really think about it, we talk about the human race. There is no human race. Everybody here is from the stars. Everybody is from somewhere else. There is no human race. What is the human race? There's no human race. There's a human avatar. There's human skin. There's, you step into the human avatar, as you kind of said, Mark, to play this game that is a simulation. We know if you look on the SECHI cameras, SECHHI, you can, and you look at the sun simulator, which is a sun simulator, covering one of the exits from this game. But you can see the ship that sits on the sun simulator. That has, in that ship, is the being that runs the whole Matrix, simulation. That does refer, like the movie. So NASA gives us these things, but who looks at the SECHI cams other than me? Apparently nobody.
I'm still waiting for that photograph.
Oh, it's on.
I can't get to it. No, I can't get to it because I'm going to have to dig in my computer and take a snapshot of it and then send it to you. And I'm on my phone, and I
sent you a friend request. Anyway.
But I will try to do it in the next by tomorrow or before.
I sent you a friend request, Kimberly.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'll see if I can accept that.
Okay. What I wanted to talk about, or wanted to ask you about, is you said that you've been exercised.
Oh yeah.
As in, getting on the treadmill and I probably need doing crunches or.
That's very true, Irene. Very psychic of you.
See, I was exercised today by my trainer. He made me do lunges around the room.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was joking. I was saying I was exercised today by my trainer. He made me do lunges around the room.
I think that's awesome. I'm jealous. That's awesome.
But with exorcism or exercise, I mean, you see these TV shows. My guilty pleasure, and I always call it my guilty pleasures, Ghost Adventures.
A lot of guilty pleasures.
Yeah, I love Ghost Adventures, even though I think that they're incredibly wrong. I don't think they fake anything, but I think that their conclusions are absolutely wrong, and everything's a demon. Over here in the U.S., it's all demons this and demons that, and they bring in exorcists.
Ghosts in the UK. Well, ghosts in the UK.
Yep.
Oh, everything's a ghost.
Okay. Ghosts in the UK, demons in US.
Yep.
Yeah, everything's a demon. They don't even, ghosts are very secondary here, I think. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. Because that's what's popular right now, to scare everybody. But you have the clergy going around or people going around and doing exorcisms. So compared to what was done to you, I mean, what is your thought on actual exorcism or possession?
It's so funny. We see possession all the time, and our technology helps us. I can see it. I'm sure Irene can sense when there's entities or human discarnates in people. It's very, very common. Yeah. It's very common. You know what? I've actually seen a huge increase in the last 6 months. It makes me wonder what's going on. You can take a picture of almost any celebrity, any person, any stranger, any member of your family, any old picture of you, and unless you're bald, and you can find entities in your hair, little creatures in your hair. So entities is, these words are such, everybody has their own definition. So when I say entity, it means something different than if Irene says, or another person says entity. Entity can mean ghosts. Entity can mean demons, which I don't believe in demons anymore, which is funny because I grew up exorcising demons and being exorcised of demons, of course, being in the, evangelical Christian church. But
we don't believe in demons in the church point of view, no.
I mean, I believe in dark force energies.
That's it.
Yeah, nefarious, all kinds, and I'm not even sure they take form. They may be from here, they may be from underground, they may be from other places, they may be from other times, and there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of AI that can imitate. We find there AI is a big player too. Now, it's always been a big player. It's been around for trillions of years. People think it's something that was introduced to us. No, like you pointed out, Mark, absolutely not. Technology and AI has always been, but that's becoming a big player that we're seeing in a lot of, quote, hauntings and house disturbances too, is this kind of black goo sentient hive mind AI that's everywhere in our refrigerators, in our laundry machines, in our light bulbs. I mean, most people don't know that light bulbs have not just cameras in them, not all, but some, but they also have recorders. They're recording, we all have eye implants. Like, we're so over technologized, but that's a big player too in some of this, experiencing. But as far as demons, yeah, I don't believe in demons, but I do believe in many different types of human discarnates and entities and energies. And I work with a lot of people, and I work with a lot of entities and energies. I've had them in my own family members and had to literally pull them out and convince them to leave. And I'm not the nicest person. Kind of like, I think Irene and I might understand each other very well, because
you're like me. You use the F word, do you?
Oh, totally. My kids are not a fan. I try not to use it on radio because, not every show allows it, but I do use that quite often. But I send, sometimes I send human discarnates to my enemies. I say, go to their house or go to this place. I mean, I have no problem. I just have a different viewpoint. I don't believe in right and wrong. I do believe in karma. I do believe in energy exchange. I'm not any religion, but what we don't treat these entities and energies or ghosts or whatever you want to call them, all different things, including cryptids, is they're individuals just like us. So it's funny. We want to be treated like an individual with our own background and our own personality and our own intelligence, but we treat all ghosts the same, and we treat all, quote, demons the same, and we treat all fairies the same. But they're not. And Irene knows this, each being, no matter what it is, you might get one to leave easily by talking to it. You might have to I've had to literally take my hands and grab hold of some of these things and pull them out of people. So there's not a one size fits all solution.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on channeling? People who channel supposed spirits from the other side. I mean, do you think a lot of times people are channeling something that's more low level than they let on? Or do you think some people are genuinely connecting with higher level beings?
I think all of it, including, I think we have access to all aspects of ourselves. So we're not just this spirit. We're spirit in other timelines, other realms, other dimensions, other planets. Not all of us, but most of us are very divided. And we just have our attention focused right here in this world because we're enjoying the game. And so we can even channel, aspects of our higher self, maybe in the 27th dimension on a planet that we created, or maybe we are a planet and we're channeling that. But oftentimes in the junk consciousness movement or new cage movement, the channelers, I believe, have been deceived or deliberately deceived or sold out or being paid to be kind of a propaganda tool to strip people's power. I think they're channeling dark force energies. I think they're channeling ancient gods, GODS. The ancient gods, I know quite a few of them. They're pranksters. I don't know, Irene, you may too. But she's really got a lot to her, that girl. But, that Irene, I'm seeing you, girl. But these gods are like us, but they're, very, very powerful and very old and very wise. And they love to come and mess with people. They love to say, I'm hokey poke from wherever and, love and light, sprinkle all this baloney. And it keeps people from their power whenever you have these cults and people following these channelers. And I used to be one of them. I mean, 10 years ago, people tied to me and sent me gifts. I mean, I loved getting diamond necklaces and paintings, and I'm not kidding. I used to drive from the airport in the car and make 5 figures on a phone call. Ridiculous. 400 people in a class. Ridiculous. Disgusting. I say it's a horrible thing to be worshipped, and it's an amazing thing to be worshipped. And these beings love to F around with not just human beings, but other races as well. If you give them an opening to come in and speak through you, who knows what you're going to get. Same danger as the Ouija board. There's absolutely no difference than someone allows themselves to be an open-ended channeler. This magenta pixie, she's from your side of the pond, I think, Sylvia. But, she's a nutcase. She channels like 9 fairy beings or something. Like, Why? Connect to yourself. All knowledge comes from within. Universe, song of one, create your own reality. Stop looking for the book. Stop looking for the movie. Stop looking for the teacher. Connect yourself. Grow yourself. You said it, Mark. I mean, we're here to grow so that our next choice, where we choose to play, is even more amazing and brilliant because we've made progress and learned things in this life.
Well, I know a lot. I agree with you on that. Is turning within and listening to yourself. Listen to your higher self. That's where all of the knowledge is. That's where,
absolutely.
Although your core is, it's kind of funny sometimes. I've mentioned this before. Sometimes when Irene are talking, let's just say once in a while somebody else steps in and scolds me.
How do you know it's somebody else?
Because I know it isn't you. Well, it's not.
Here's where Irene
you.
is different, though, from other people. Here's where Irene is different. Irene is actually a very, very old being herself, and she can recognize high frequency, low frequency, dark light. She knows the agenda. She would never allow.
I can recognize. Yeah, I can definitely recognize.
She would never allow a being to speak through her. And if it happened, not that it can't happen to the best of us, she would immediately shut it down. I'm pretty sure. So she's different. She has what's called discernment, and she hasn't sold out. Nobody's paying Irene to promote an agenda. Irene's just using her gifts as she sees fit at any given moment. But these other people seem to have an agenda. I mean, the New Age movement was created by the CIA. Why? To empower us? No, to keep us from our power, to keep us from the knowledge, as you know, and Irene knows that we're infinite consciousness.
I hate this New Age gump.
Yeah, the hairy fairy.
Hairy fairy, yeah.
Love and light. Mm-hmm. Kimberly, you've touched on a few things, so I want to ask you a little bit more of a direct question. You seem to have a lot of knowledge of military and intelligence programs. How have you learned about these programs?
Well, first of all, I'm from an extremely strong military family. My great uncle has an exhibit as a World War II hero pilot in the Dayton Air Force Museum. So my family is extremely, just been, forever. My dad went to Vietnam. Many members of my family is in the military. My ex-fiance was in the military on a very high level from, let's call it a ruling family in the world. Mm-hmm. They call it the ruling families. And he worked for Homeland Security. So a lot of my information comes from him. I've dated a Russian spy, and every date we went on, we were followed around. You and I have a resonance. I'm telling you, we couldn't go on a date. There were two KGB agents. This is old. This is 15, 20 years ago. They're a little less obvious now, but I mean, we couldn't go anywhere alone. We were followed around. So I've just dated people that are involved in the inner workings of government. I'm friends with members of the Kennedy family. I'm close friends with members of the Carter family. Those are American royalty. And I just know a lot of people, and I've been involved with a lot of people, and they've shared a lot of secrets. As a matter of fact, my ex-fiance was in one of the buildings the night before 9/11, pulling out General Electric, all the computers, Homeland Security, U.S. Homeland Security was pulling out General Electric's very expensive multi-millionaire computer equipment the night before 9/11. Coincidence? I think not.
No, neither do I.
No.
I think not as well.
What do you think about, you mentioned in your notes about remote viewing and the military use of, not only the U.S., but, Russia and other countries who've used remote viewers for spying purposes or espionage?
Even with the technology we have, I still have remote viewers appear in my bedroom every so often, which is very interesting to me with all the technology.
I'll pop in and see you tonight, Kimberly.
Okay, that's fine. You're welcome. You can straighten my picture so I don't have to before I get up in the morning. You can undo my fairy work. But they still, as a matter of fact, the Getty, I know, I have friends that are really involved in what's underneath the Getty Museum and, a lot of the underground bases. And I know that they have really high level, high level psi ability remote viewers that guard from remote viewer, other high level people like Irene and I. There would be like a little remote viewing war that probably wouldn't be pleasant for anybody if we try to remote view. Irene knows this. There's just places it's not worth it for me to go look. I don't need to. I know what's there on a higher level. I don't need to go poke around. And it's not very safe. So all the militaries, all the intelligence agencies still use remote viewers as a defensive weapon. They also use them in the My Labs and Secret Space program. They use it as an offensive weapon. They have psi assassins and all sorts of things. And
now you know why I've been so bloody busy, Mark.
Yeah,
carry on.
I will reserve my jokes for off the air.
Carry on, Kimberly.
Yeah, I call it the not so secret space program because, doesn't everybody know about that by now? Have you guys had people on here that are My Labs SSP people?
We've had Andrew DiBasciago on, who was part of the MK Ultra program back in the 70s and 80s, doing not only the teleportation chronovisor time travel experiments, but also supposedly in the 80s doing the teleportation to Mars experiments. And his story, while I don't know if you've ever heard of him, if not, look him up, because
I am going to look him up.
His story is very intriguing. It sounds so out there, and yet I've heard him in dozens of interviews. He never changes his story. He comes across as very credible. He's an attorney, but these memories came back, and he's had other people that were with him in the program who've come forward and backed up his story.
Yeah, I'm an MK Ultra girl. I think Irene might be too. I'm going to have to scan her and see.
I missed that. I was eating a strawberry.
Irene and her fruit.
I only do it, honestly, Kimberly. I only eat grapes and things when I'm on the air.
Oh, that's cute. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's when I get my fruit kick. What was it you said? Sorry, I might be what?
So the MK Ultra program is global. Of course, everybody thinks it's just a U.S. program, but it's not. Every country has their own MK Ultra program. We're so memory wiped. They memory wipe us they upload us every night into the mainframe. They memory wipe us all the time. We're all MK Ultra. Of course, what's television? Television's a huge part of MK Ultra, obviously. Any programming. MK Ultra is just like a special type of programming. It used to be done through torture. Now the newer people, the younger people, they've done more gentle versions, but I'm part of the old school MK Ultra program. It's a whole nother conversation and long story. But been to Montauk, been in the chair, had it verified, part of Project Looking Glass. I sometimes think my exposure to that technology enables me to read timelines and travel so easily now and probably then. I've been 20, 40, 60, 80 regressed and back. I've had people recognize my clones in other countries, all kinds of things. But I'm not. You see, it sounds like I'm out there and I'm unusual. I'm not. I bet if I scan Irene, I could tell her, if she doesn't know, a whole bunch of interesting stuff similar.
Go on, then. Right, she's going to scan
me. Now she's
me.
Challenging you.
No, and I mean with my technology, I don't mean right this second. My old way of scanning people, I don't know if you've ever done this, Irene. It was pretty not smart. I can completely merge with people inside out and be them. That has a big price in doing that.
Yes.
So I don't do that anymore. I call myself the lazy psychic. I just use I don't just use my technology, but I use it for the deep work,
Yeah.
What's funny is we mentioned, I sometimes will use movies as a great comparison to what's happening in our current live situation. I mentioned The Matrix. There's another old movie. I don't know if you ever saw it. Late 80s. John Carpenter, who made Halloween and The Thing, The Fog, and all these movies. In late 80s, he made this movie called They Live. And if you've never seen it, watch it. It is...
I've been trying to find that.
It's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. Yeah.
Is it about... What, zombie? Is it like a zombie
No,
thing?
it's about it was starred Rowdy Roddy Piper, the wrestler. But it was about the movie was about how he was this homeless guy who works construction. He stumbles across a resistance group who shows that the world is actually being controlled. All the back then it was the yuppies, but all the rich people and whatnot were all or mostly aliens controlling the earth and brainwashing everybody through the television. And if you put on these special sunglasses, he could see right through it. And it's all this subliminal advertising saying like, obey, money says this is your God. But he was doing it. He made the movie more as like poking at the George Bush Sr. and that type of, the money hungry people and wealthy people and the disparity of that rich and poor. But he didn't realize how close he really nailed it to the truth. And now the movie, 30 something years later, is way more relevant than it was when it first came out.
Yeah, because he was, you were telling me, he was looking at like billboards and things. It could be a billboard with a toothpaste advert on it.
Yeah, and then he put on the glasses. And
say obey. And like that.
Say like marry and reproduce, don't question.
A bit like our televisions today, isn't it, with adverts and the way they brainwash you.
Don't question authority, Yeah. It's very timely.
Yeah, I'll have to find it.
About the Vietnam War. I don't know if you know about this. They thought it'd be a great idea, our brilliant military, to give the helicopter pilots in Vietnam these like green tinted special aviation glasses. Mm-hmm. And they did, and they started having huge issues. They started crashing into each other. They started crashing planes, started committing suicide. And they brought them in for debriefing, and they're like, what the heck? What's going on? What the glasses did is it opened up the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions. And I can see everything. I mean, because one of the reasons people can't see and activate their ability is they only want to see the good. You have to be willing to see the darkness too, all of it. And so they saw like dark-winged, demonic, they would call them like Mothman type creatures. They saw monsters. They saw everything when they were flying these planes. So then they like took the glasses away and, retired those people from the military and then scrubbed the records. But there's still some people that experienced it that have talked about it. So super fascinating.
It is fascinating, yeah.
It just reminded me of saying the glasses.
I knew about that. As soon as before you even said about the glasses, I was about to say glasses, I somewhere in the back of my mind, I know about that.
It's probably been scrubbed.
I think you know a lot, Irene. I think you're involved. I think you're up to your eyeballs in special projects in my labs. Your abilities are too strong and you're too powerful a being. They would never let you be here without using you to your fullest, whether you know it or not. So I think you're involved in a lot of these projects,
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm afraid I do get used.
Yep.
In more sense than one.
You also mentioned something earlier about like seeing through people having trouble talking here, like reptilians or people who are they don't look human but not really quite human, and the disguise sometimes fades a bit and the true self comes out. Like the running conspiracy theory, like say the British royal family are all reptilians, that kind of thing. You feel something like that is happening?
No. Well, that's right. Most of us have a lot of reptilian DNA, actually, because we're constantly being upgraded and tweaked in more combinations, and people mix up the avatar with the spirit. So you could have you could be an ancient god or goddess and many other things, but be in a high level blue blood type of reptilian body, which is where they usually put them, because again, it's about access of the ruling elite corporations. They want to utilize, if all the people that are real fire creation spirits woke up one day and we all decided we weren't going to contribute to this reality, the game would stop and we'd go on our merry way. But, nobody knows or remembers who they are. And even when you do remember who you are, the 3D is so thick. You know this, Irene. It's so sludgy. It pulls you back. Like we have bills to pay, and we have children and dogs to take care of, and we have houses to repair, and we have jobs to do, and we have dental appointments to go to. Like it's thick. It's hard to live in these upper dimensions and blend it with this lower reality. And if it's hard for people like you and me and Irene, it's impossible for, the everyday Joe that has no memory, even if they are an ancient god or goddess and way more from another planet. It's still hard.
Interesting.
He's got, I thought she had you there. I really thought she had you.
What, had me stumped, you mean?
Yeah.
No. It makes sense to me.
It is. It does make sense. Yeah.
So all I'm saying is we're all in spirit. None of us in spirit. If you could see our spirit, you're not going to see a human. There is no human. You're going to see a Venetian, someone from Venus. You're going to see someone from a planet we never heard of. You're going to see a Palladian. You're going to see a Draco. You're going to see a reptilian. You're going to see a Sasquatch. There is no human. There's only eternal expressions of consciousness and the latest thing that you've chosen. And so another fallacy that drives me nuts is people are like, what's my soul family? Honey, if you're quadrillions of years old and there is no time, but that's our human marker of time, you've had many soul families. You've been many things. You haven't just experienced many lives here. You've experienced many lives other places. Maybe you were a tree somewhere. Maybe you were a planet. Maybe you were a sun. Maybe you were a reptile. Maybe you were a Draco. Maybe you were a Palladian. Like, we're so small-minded. Who teaches us this? Nothing. You have to remember.
That just brings up, I was rereading one of Whitley Strieber's later books. His last 4 or 5 books are very, very compelling reading. He's been on a roll lately, and he was talking about in his book about what's it called? Solving the Communion Enigma, which is going back and re-examining everything that happened to him from communion, bringing up to modern day, looking at it from a new take. And he told the story.
His book Communion, you mean?
Yeah, his original book Communion, written back in the 80s, but this one came out.
They made the film from.
Yeah, and this one came out just a few years ago. And he told the story about this one woman who was going through an abduction experience, and she was surrounded by these short, squat, blue-looking troll-like creatures that actually Whitley has experienced in his abduction experiences. And at one point, the woman looked at one of them and she said, "You're so ugly." And the creature responded back to her, "My dear, one day you'll look like us." And that line just hit home to me, because it goes back into what you're talking about, is that we're here right now in this reality, and then when we go on to these other realities, or what we've lived in next lifetime, last lifetime, we've been all of these different types of beings. Yeah, it's so hard for humans to look past this moment in time.
It's because the system, whether we chose to come here, some of us were captured, some of us chose. It's designed. That's the challenge of it. We knew, those that chose, we knew we were going to be memory wiped. For an infinite being that's bored, what a great game. This is a phenomenal game. This is a thrilling game. This is an exciting game, even with the pain. To figure it out, wow, to remember. How brilliant. It's a good game.
I don't know. Lately, I feel like, okay, we can stop the world now. I'm ready to get off. or catch the next ship to Alpha Centauri, because you know what?
You'd come back as something.
I'm getting really fed up with this shit show.
You'd be put on the end of a fishing line.
Yeah. I'll be bait.
Your luck.
Good Lord. Well, Kimberly, this...
And I don't know about you, Kimberly, but do you think things, or do you have a thought you want to know something, you just think it, you got the answer, bang, like that, straight away?
It depends what it is. Like, my memories of don't come like that, but other information pretty much. And I don't know if you're like this, Irene. Sometimes my life is boring because I know what's going to happen next.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm planning a live event for next year, but I've already been there, done that. So I'm kind of bored of it. I mean, I know my people aren't going to be, but like, it's hard because I've already lived everything. Like, I can live backward and forward and present at the same time. It's weird. I can't really explain it, but so I can access pretty much anything. In relation to this reality, I'm pretty good at accessing information and even other realities too. I'm getting better at it.
Oh, I love that. I love doing that. You know, I'll just get something into my head and bang, that's it. I've got the answer. I'm okay. Doesn't matter what it is, Mark.
Yeah, you could share from time to time.
No. Only if it's gossip, darling.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Irene and I have these deep philosophical discussions, and I know she's sitting over there just like, you know, clucking her tongue and just rolling her eyes and going, oh boy, he doesn't know anything. She already has the answers.
We do have these deep discussions. We go into stuff that people would not even think. They wouldn't have the ability to understand.
That's right. Yeah,
but you know, we enjoy it. You know, he'll say, "Well, how does that work?" And I say, "Well, that's like this." Blah, 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 blah. But it's, you know, it's really good, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, it's really helped to expand my consciousness over these last several years, and we look at things. That's why when we get on these shows, a lot of our guests are not like you. They're not prepared for the types of questions we ask because they don't get these kind of questions or this kind of a conversation on other shows, because we have done so much and have, you know, learned so much as we've been doing this. Now, not just our shows, but our relationship over the last several years. And so we'll get in these very, very deep spiritual and philosophical conversations that would just blow people's minds. They just would not understand it.
You know what's funny? I shouldn't tell you guys this, but I will. I was warned about you guys, but I won't go in. I always go in with neutral mindset, so it doesn't matter. Like,
well, you told we were naughty, Kimberly.
No, I was told that you would be a very difficult interview, but I found it a very enjoyable, stimulating interview, you know, but I think it's because of what you were just saying. Depending who you're talking to, you guys could come off as, I don't know what, like almost challenging, because you're like open and you want to expand the audience's mind, and you guys are willing to expand your own mind. So that can come across as maybe intimidating, or maybe if you aren't able to think on your feet and you don't have opinions, it could be frustrating. So I can see where you guys are deep. I mean, this is a deep freaking show. Like, it's not a mamby-pamby, you know, which ghosts did you see, you know, and what happened on your last paranormal investigation. I mean, it's way deeper than that.
Well, you know, it also depends on the guest too. Now, when we get someone like yourself, I mean, we enjoy, you know, we're all on the same page. We could take it and we can run with it.
You were scary. That's all. I heard I should be scared and careful, and I didn't find I had to be scared or careful.
Which one of us were you told was the worst one?
Do I have to answer that question?
Sure.
Me, innit?
I was told Mark was especially intimidating, but I heard both of you were, so it was interesting.
I do have to ask, and no names, but was this a person or was this someone else?
No, it was it was a person that has outside influences in them, but only I know that. They don't know that. They don't know that. The person
are they a radio host with us? Are they one of our radio hosts?
No comment. No further questions. I'm going to plead the fifth because I'll get in trouble if I say too much else.
More than likely one of our radio hosts, Mark.
Yeah, now we're going to have to go back and see whose other show she's been on. No, I'm kidding.
Really nice.
I'm kidding.
It wasn't that you weren't nice. It was just they were very intimidated by you. That's all.
Okay. Well,
Irene is very powerful. I can see why people. I mean, Irene kind of intimidates me. Like I know the dark side of me, and I can see the dark side of Irene. I want to ever cross Irene.
Oh, the things I could say.
I don't know. I'm sorry that they felt intimidated.
No,
we're really very warm and
for doing that. You know, I have to slap him one around the face.
It's just perception. I mean, we all have different perceptions and different opinions, and I thought you guys were delightful. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate the hard questions, and I appreciate the discussion.
Well, we're definitely going to have you back because I think there's a lot more we can go into, and so definitely let's plan on picking up part 2 here sometime in the near future.
I would.
Yeah, because I want to talk a bit more on how you feel about the ghost side.
Okay, sure. I'd love to.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that.
Well, we are running out of time here. I mean, this time has really flown, and I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, Kimberly. So we'll definitely have you back, and hope you had a good time too. Now, do you have anything, a website, or how can people get in touch with you?
I do. Secrettoeverything.com. We have a contact form there. People always call us. We do have a phone number, but it's much better either to fill out our website form or to write support@KimberlyMcGeorge.com, which is my other website. It feeds into secrettoeverything.com. So either one is fine. You'll still get me. I have a YouTube channel. You can just type in my name and type in Secret to Everything. I'm old, unfortunately. I've been around a lot.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know how you feel. I really do.
You sound very young, so.
Well, she does. She does.
Thank you.
I don't think she's as old as me.
No one's as old as you. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been a month. I can't help it.
You guys are funny.
Kimberly.
Yes,
I sent
ma'am.
you a Facebook. I sent you a Facebook.
Okay.
Thing,
Request.
So,
yes. Okay.
As soon as Mark, or you can do it, Mark. As soon as you can give us some dates. We'll sort out another date to have Kimberly on because I like her.
Yeah. Probably in the next couple of months. So we are booked for the next few weeks. So we'll figure something out, Kimberly, and we'll see what looks good on your
Just
schedule.
Let me know, and I'll work you in. I'll make time for you. So Thank you so much. I enjoyed both of you so much, and thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
Oh well, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Definitely,
Kimberly.
My pleasure.
Let me have a look at that ship that you were talking about.
Yes, I will send that over within the next 24 hours.
Okay, fantastic.
You're an absolute darling, Kimberly.
All right.
Likewise.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another edition of the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show here on the Paranormal UK radio network. And Irene, where can people find us?
Everywhere, people. Everywhere.
Yep.
Just everywhere.
Just everywhere. Okay, well, everyone, until next week, I hope everyone has a great week, and we will catch you all next time. So, Irene and Kimberly, have a good evening, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.